when I first started, I was holding strictly continental, but my backhand felt super weak. And then I switched it to Eastern because I saw that's what Ben Johns was doing on his backhand. And so switched it to Eastern, and then I tried Eastern on the forehand, and my forehand was even better too. So I was like, interesting. So I like to get on there and just figure out what the pros are doing and then try to implement it in my game. Some of the stuff works for me. Some of the stuff doesn't. It's not recommended to just copy someone's game, right? But take multiple samples from different pros and then implement them in your game. Hey guys, welcome to the Picklehead Podcast. Really quick, me and Spencer have been working on growing our social media, and we have a goal to make it to 1,000 followers on Instagram before July hits. So it's a stretch of a goal. We're at 500 something right now. But if you guys could take 5 seconds and just go click that button and follow us if you aren't already on Instagram, it would mean the absolute world to us. So we would appreciate that. Anyways, today we're going to be talking about 5 habits that you need to have as a pickleball player. And in specific, these habits will just help you guys to become better pickleball players in general. So we hope that you guys enjoy our collage of 5 habits.
Absolutely. Let's start with number 1. Some people cringe at this word. Other people are excited to do it. I'm one of those weirdos that likes to do it. But drilling, specifically our drill to play ratio. Sometimes when we're drilling, all we want to do is have fun and play some rec. But we should be drilling more than we play if we want to improve. So number 1 is drilling. I've heard 80-20. I know that that's helped me a lot. In other words, 80% drilling to 20% play. If you do want to improve your game, if you want to continue to progress over time, drilling can be so important. And not just standard drilling the same thing over and over, even though that is important. It's good to mix it up, do new and different drills, learn new things as you're going to drill. Oz, how often would you say you drill, and what's kind of the variety like when you drill?
Really just depends on the time of year, I guess you could say, because some of the time I'll go drill and only drill the entire week, and I just line up drilling sessions. Mm-hmm. And then the next week I'll only play. So I don't really have that good of a balance, but I definitely get a whole lot better if I go and drill. And I mentioned this in the last podcast, but Ben Johns and Colin Johns, all they do is drill together. They don't play any rec games. And maybe once in a blue moon they'll play with some players, but they're not going to be like professional level, but they'll just play with them to play with them for fun. Mm-hmm. Maybe someone's shooting a video or something like that. But other than that, they're strictly just drilling. If I was trying to become a pro, number 1 thing that I would do is just drill 100% of the time, and then maybe throw in some rec games just so I could get that rec feel, so that I could get that tournament feel. But for the most part, just drilling, I think, is the way to go. And lately I've been mostly just drilling because I have had to film a ton of content for my app that's coming out. So.
And do you think that drilling has improved your game just even recently? Have you noticed the difference when you've been drilling more versus playing?
Oh yeah, it's crazy. Like, something that I was struggling with is deciding when to do a backhand roll as compared to doing a backhand block and hitting it short in the kitchen. Because as the opponent's transitioning forward, I was backhand rolling, and I kept having the same problem in rec games where I would backhand roll and then they would hit a power shot and then beat me on my hands over and over again. And I wasn't sure what I was doing, but I videoed myself doing the drill, and I noticed I would do my backhand roll and instantly my hand goes back down towards below my waist area. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. That's why I'm not getting to that next ball, because next ball would come like shoulder height. So what I've been practicing now as I drill is I'll backhand roll as they're transitioning forward, but then I will hold it up high near shoulder height and be ready for actually a forehand counter on my right shoulder. And that has helped tremendously. But I wouldn't have noticed that unless I had videoed my drills, which I think we're talking about later as one of the habits is watching film and seeing what the pros do. But yeah, if I hadn't drilled in general, I wouldn't have figured out that that's what I was doing wrong. But also making a special emphasis on using the block when your opponent is more than halfway through the court on their transition. So I noticed that as well, is I would roll when they were further than halfway on their transition. Mm-hmm. And when you roll, it has to kind of go up and then down. But if I just block, I can block it at their feet and keep it really short in the court. So that's what I've been working on, is the decision making between doing a block and a roll. If they're already halfway, I'm going to block and try to get it at their feet. If they're not quite halfway, I'll roll it. And then I'm just ready in that ready position. So yeah, there's a long-winded answer of how drilling's helped me lately.
No, yeah, I'm going to try that for sure. So the goal for everybody would be, if you want to improve your game, try to push for more drilling than play. If you can get to that 80%, 20%, or 90%, 10% in favor of drilling, then great. If you don't think you can get there, I mean, at least go 50-50. Try to drill as much as you can, and I guarantee you'll see improvement in your game, and you'll see it quickly. So number 2, time on court. I think a lot of times people just aren't on the court enough, and they're not using specifically that time wisely. So maybe they are on the court, maybe it's just rec play, or maybe, like we said, maybe they're drilling, but they're just drilling the same thing over and over, or it is just fun for them on the court. I know for a lot of people, I mean, it's fun for me to play pickleball, to play rec also. If you're just there to have a good time, you're not concerned about improving your game too much, but by all means, but your time on the court can be super valuable if you're focused on working on something while you're there, if you're focused on videoing yourself so that you can watch later and see what you can improve upon. So not just time on the court, but specific time on the court where you're using that time wisely.
Yeah. Me personally, if I'm on the court and I'm just playing for fun, it's not very fun if I'm losing. And I think that's hopefully for a majority of people, I would imagine. Yeah. But for me, it's not fun to just lose. So time on the court, spending extra time on the court, drilling, like we were talking about before, so that you can show up and play rec games, you're going to have a lot more fun if you know what you're doing and you're doing everything correctly.
Yeah, and even if you're focused, if it is rec play on the court, if you're focused on, okay, this game, I'm really going to work on my backhand dink because it's struggling. Or this game, I'm really going to focus one point at a time. I remember when we had Travis Rettenmeyer on, one piece of advice that he gave us is to just play 1 point at a time. Don't focus on, okay, we got to get to 11 before they get to 11. No, we got to work on winning this point, and then keep the focus for the next point, just one at a time. But picking specific things that you need to work on, or hey, maybe you tell whoever you're playing with, I need to play a little bit more right side today because I don't have as much experience on the right side, and I want to work on my backhand counters, or whatever it might be. So focused time on the court, spending that time wisely on the court can help you. Anything to add to that?
No, I love what you said. I think having something to focus on while you're playing in a rec game is going to help you get better at that. Also mentioning to your partner, because you guys are probably going to lose because you're just focusing on that, is like mentioning to them before, hey, just so you know, I'm practicing this. So if we end up losing a couple more points than we normally would, that's why. But I would rather get better at that in a rec game so that I can come in prepared for a tournament or be better the next day. So right now, for me, for example, I'm working on my backhand roll to block percentage and making sure that I'm getting back into ready position and keeping my paddle up and high after I roll it. And so that's what all I'm focused on during rec games.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Definitely letting your partner know, and it is worth it. I know that in the moment, even when you're playing rec, me personally, I can be competitive. I know other people can be competitive. It's like I just want to win, and we'll talk more about that point in a minute. But if you can focus on something, if you can be willing to not do as well in the beginning in order to do well better on, and to improve your overall game better on, I said, but I meant later on. Improve your overall game later on. No, that's an excellent idea. So number one was drilling. Number two, time on court. Number three, playing with better players. So what I've experienced in my time in pickleball, and it was the same with me in the beginning, is I don't like to lose, and especially before I didn't want to lose, and so I would invite out people that I knew I could beat. But over time, I was figuring out, okay, this is not helping me get better at all. So playing with better players when you do play rec and in tournaments as well, that's a lot of what tournaments are for. Playing with better players, playing with different players, a variety of players, can help improve your game tremendously. But you gotta eat a little bit of humble pie first, and you gotta think, okay, I'm probably gonna lose to these guys, but it's gonna make my game better, even just slightly better today. And if I continue to play with better players, I'm gonna learn new tricks. I'm gonna learn new ways of hitting things. I'm gonna learn better ways of how to hit the ball, or better footwork, or whatever it is, a way to improve. But in order to do that, I gotta play with better players. I can't just keep playing with the same people, and I can't just keep playing with people that I know I can beat, because my game won't improve if I'm doing that. Austin, did you experience that at all? Like starting in pickleball, was it hard for you to be like, no way am I going to lose to this guy that's 20 years older than me? I mean, what was your experience as far as what does it take for you to go and play with better players?
Yeah, I think I learned early on in tennis that you want to play with better players. I also learned that from basketball, even though I never played basketball in high school, but from our brother-in-law, Jace. He said the only way that you're going to get better is if you play with better players, and he's a big basketball player.
Mm-hmm.
And so I kind of learned that early on. And so in tennis, I wanted to be the best in wherever I was, in whatever town I was. And so I would always try to find the best competition to play against. And it hurts to lose, and I lost so many times, but I definitely got better as a result of playing with those players. So I'd say going into pickleball, I already kind of had that mindset. And then what I learned as I started playing pickleball is the importance of, once you get that better player to play with on the court, make sure that you're hitting to that better player, because they're going to have the best strokes. They're going to give you the best competition, and they're going to help to improve your game the most. Plus, they're going to want to play with you again because you hit the ball to them.
Excellent advice. Yeah, and it does hurt to lose sometimes, but you got to think in the overall grand scheme of things. You got to think big picture as opposed to small picture. You got to think, I'm going to win later on versus I'm going to win right now, and that playing with better players can help you do that. So number 4, watching film. So I'm a visual learner, and it has helped me a ton to watch pros specifically play, and watch better players play when I can in person. But to watch the pros, whether it's on YouTube or lately on Amazon Prime or wherever it is, you can find a ton of it on YouTube, on the PPA Tours website, on the APP Tours website. It's all just sitting there for the taking. It's a great way to improve your game, is watching them play and then trying to implement some of the things that they do. They can make so many things look easy. It's like, well, I can do that. But try to go out there and do it consistently. Try to return deeper like they do. Try to be as consistent as they are. Watch, play it in slow-mo, which I've done quite a few times. In YouTube, you can go and change change the setting to play slower, and you can watch them slowly do something and see what they saw and why they did something the way that they did it. But me being a visual learner, uh, it helps me a ton, just even without being on the court, even without having a paddle in my hand, being able to watch them play, so that when I do have a paddle in my hand, um, then I can do that. And I probably watch too much, but I would definitely suggest at least watching some and watching when you can, and then trying to implement those things. What do you think, Oz?
No such thing as watching too much. All I know is that Amazon Prime, when it was on Amazon Prime, I don't know about you, but that was a horrible experience.
Yeah,
We have Amazon Prime, so that wasn't a problem, but it's like I couldn't watch it live. But then in order to fast forward, you could only go 10-second increments at a time. It's just a joke.
yeah.
I don't understand. It's because it was like a live stream. So live streams, after it's live, you can only go 10 seconds at a time to fast forward. I can't tell you how many times that weekend I was not watching it live. Obviously, I'm not watching it live because it's during the workday, but I would just have to fast forward through and click 10-second increments like 800 times. So hopefully they never do it on Amazon again. I know that they plan to like 3 more times this year, but that was a joke. They need to figure that out.
Not a fan of it. I think YouTube still is the future.
Yeah, YouTube's where it's at.
But time will tell, I guess.
Yeah,
But
it's all about
anyone
money.
that's listening can, or all of our viewers right now, you can hop on YouTube right now, and there's so much footage just from earlier this year or from past years. I mean, there is hours and hours and hours of footage
Yeah.
that you can watch, that'll help you improve. And
Yeah, my favorite
go ahead.
my favorite thing to do on there is figure out what grips people hold and then try to implement that grip. When I first started, I was holding strictly continental, but my backhand felt super weak. And then I switched it to Eastern because I saw that's what Ben Johns was doing on his backhand. And so switched it to Eastern, and then I tried Eastern on the forehand, and my forehand was even better too. So I was like, interesting. So I like to get on there and just figure out what the pros are doing and then try to implement it in my game. Some of the stuff works for me. Some of the stuff doesn't. It's not recommended to just copy someone's game, right? But take multiple samples from different pros and then implement them in your game. Figure out which ones work for you, and then it'll ultimately improve the way that you play. So that's what I've been doing.
Yeah, bring those things to the court and just start drilling. Do them 1,000 times, and then do it 1,000 more times, and then just watch your game improve. So, number 4 was watching film. Number 5, training off court. This one is an important one for me, especially just for my overall health. But I've noticed training off court has helped me tremendously on the pickleball court, and this can be fueling your body properly, and can also be working out, whether you like to lift weights or cardio. For me, it's more of an endurance thing. I'm not a very good singles player. I play singles pickleball like once a year, but if I do go out there and play, I can still be competitive with just about anybody, because of my endurance. The one thing I'm not going to do is get tired. Yeah, my shots won't be as good as theirs. I don't understand the singles game as well as some other people, but I'm definitely going to outrun them on the court. And the same thing can go for doubles. So even just the other day, we were playing with a group of guys, and one of the guys was not in the best shape. And so the first 2 games, his pickleball game is actually very good. He can crush the ball. He has the touch. The first couple of games were very competitive, but by the time the 3rd game came around, I could tell that he was really winded, and that affected his entire game. It affected the way he hit his shots. He wasn't able to get to certain balls, and it was just the difference between balls going in and balls going out, or it was the difference between popping a ball up at the kitchen when in the first couple of games he was keeping it down so that we couldn't attack it. And so I would say definitely any type of training you can do off the court can certainly improve your game. One more point on that is getting low. I've noticed lately. So Annalie Waters, the best female in the world, I notice how low she gets
Yeah.
when she's dinking and when she's playing overall. Even her ground strokes, she's bending her knees and getting so low. Um, if you want to be able to do that consistently and throughout matches, especially in a tournament, playing match after match, um, I guarantee she's doing, she has her own personal trainer. She's doing all sorts of leg works out that are helping her prepare for that and be able to endure through that. And, I've noticed with my game too, I'm hitting more consistently and better shots the lower I can get, but that comes from training off the court. What are some other things we can do to train off the court, Oz?
Yeah. How many miles do you run a week, Spencer?
It depends on the week, but I run. I mean, keep this in mind. I run more than people should run. And I get it. I'm gonna get some backlash. People say it'll hurt your knees, all these things. I understand that. I'm bringing this upon myself. So far, it hasn't, but hopefully it continues that way. I run anywhere from 6 to 10 miles a day. So, like I said, maybe my pickleball game isn't as good as some of the others, but you're gonna get tired before me, the majority of
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
So at least I have that on my side.
Yeah. That was the main thing with tennis playing singles was I would always think to myself, man, if I was in better shape, I would be beating all of these guys, all these top guys in the state. If I was just in better shape because I could outrun them. But I wasn't there physically. I looked like I was, but yeah, I think that's a whole new level. There's this guy, his name's Marty Fish, and he played professional tennis for a while. I'm sure some of you guys know him. But he had a Netflix special that came out. I don't know what it's called, but it was fantastic to watch. But he makes it like to the end of his career in tennis, and he never had broken the top 10 and really just hadn't performed that well, was getting beat by all these people. But he found his inner fire and grabbed a coach, and he said, all I want you to do is just feed one ball here on the right side of the court and the next ball here on the left side of the court over and over and over again. And he would have training sessions. He would have 3-hour training sessions 2 to 3 times a day. So he was just all day. And he's like, I just want it back and forth and back and forth. So then he showed up to his first tournament of that year. He had taken a couple of months off. And he was noticeably like way more fit than he was. He already looked super fit, but he came in looking taller because he was such a like string bean, I guess you could say. He was just so fit. And he's like, nobody could outrun me on the court. Like I could just go all day. And I just didn't feel anything because of the training that I had put in. And he broke top 10 that year, made it to the Laver Cup, I think is what it's called, if I'm remembering correctly. Which Laver Cup you have to be top 10 to make it to, and you compete against different countries, I think is how it works, or they just take teams. I'm pretty sure it's different countries. It might be like World versus Europe or something like that. That might be the way that they did it. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's correct. So he broke the top 10, made it to the Laver Cup, and achieved his goal just from hitting balls back and forth. So for me personally, the best training that I've had for pickleball. Obviously, pickleball, a lot of people that don't play view it as like a grandma and grandpa's sport. But we had Jay DeVilliers on our last podcast, and he said, hey, I've played high-level tennis, and I've played professional pickleball. You're moving more during a professional pickleball.
Than tennis.
What is it called? Match? What?
Yeah, you're moving more in your match in pickleball
in
than
your
you are
match.
in tennis.
Wow, couldn't think of the word match for some reason. And he said, because you're playing one match and then you're playing the next match 20 minutes later and sometimes less than that. And then, whereas in tennis, it's sometimes a couple days before your next match or a day before your next match. So it's like, yeah, it's pretty grueling while you're out there, but longest that match is going to be is a few hours. Whereas pickleball, you're going to be on the courts all day. He said, trust me, it's a lot harder on the body to be playing pickleball. Which maybe it is until you get to the professional level and you're playing 5-setters at Roland Garros. because
Right.
there's no way anything's going to be harder than that. That being said, best training that I've had is drilling singles drills. And then I go and play doubles, and it feels like doubles is a walk in the park. So like an example for a drill is one person stands at the non-volley zone line on the even court, and they feed a ball in to the odd side, and then their next shot goes to the even side. So they're just running you back and forth, but you have to hit back to them on the even side, and you're on the baseline having to hit it back to them over and over and over and over and over again, back and forth. Get your training in, and that's what I've found has really, really helped me, is just implementing singles training into my drilling, and then showing up to the doubles court. I feel a lot more confident and a lot better physically playing.
Yeah, that's a great one. And I can't stress enough. I know we mentioned a lot of singles for this point for training off the court, but obviously will help your singles game, but I'm telling you, it affects your doubles game also. Staying fit or doing the best that you can to stay fit, fueling your body properly, can affect your game. And so let's run through real quick all 5 of these tips one more time. If you can implement these and try to improve upon them day after day, week after week, you'll see your pickleball game skyrocket. You'll see your skill level go up. So number 1 was drilling. Push as hard as you can to do much more drilling than you do play. Number 2, time on court. Use the time that you have on the court wisely. Number 3, playing with better players. Even though it can be tough sometimes and you don't want to lose, you'll lose in the beginning, but you can win later on if you play with harder players. Number 4, watching film. Do your best to watch your own film, video yourself, see what you can improve upon. You'd be surprised watching yourself and seeing what you do wrong, and you can pinpoint it and correct it. And then watching pros play and others that are better than you play and try to implement those things. And then lastly, training off the court. Do your best to fuel your body properly. Certain forms of exercise can be so beneficial for your pickleball game overall. So we hope these 5 points have been helpful for you. We appreciate all of you viewers. If you can, take the time to leave a comment or a review wherever you're watching. Please follow us on social media or subscribe on YouTube. And we appreciate you being here with us. Later, Pickleheads.
Yeah, we'll see you guys.